Hello everyone and welcome to another session of AP Human Geography with Mr. Elrod. Today we're going to continue on in Unit 3, discussing religions, and today's video is not going to be very long. We're just briefly going to touch base on two types of, I guess we consider them to be ethnic religions. They're not really ethnic or universalizing religions. In terms of religion themselves, they're more of, you might say it's a spiritual essence or something along those lines, spiritualness. A way of seeing the world and viewing the world and understanding one's place in the world, not so much concerned with a divine being or afterlife and things along those lines. So anyway, so the first one we'll talk about is what's called shamanism. Now, shamanism lends itself more to traditional tribal beliefs. You think about some of our more primitive societies in our world today and some more primitive societies in history. They more than likely would have what's called a shaman. And shamanism, again, lends itself to typically smaller societies because within shamanism, the shaman tends to be a very important, or is a very important individual. And shamanism revolves around the individual that is called the shaman. And typically within the context of that society, the shaman is a religious leader, not only a religious leader but also a healer. And a lot of times, especially if the group's small enough, the shaman will actually be the leader of that particular group because of the religious and the healing properties that the shaman has. Now, the role the shaman plays is not just a healer, obviously through a series of incantations or through different herbal remedies or communicating with the spirits and things like that. The shaman will be able to heal people, and of course that would give them preeminence within society. Uh, the belief that they can communicate with the spirits, whether it be ancestors or animals or gods or things like that, to be able to communicate with them. But not only that, the shaman a lot of times I would believe to be able to divine the future. So they would do divinations and things like that, where they would try to predict the future, foretell the future. And so because of their perceived powers among the group, they held a very high space. So even if they weren't necessarily the leader of the group, they still held a very prominent place within the group. And again, the shaman tends to lend themselves to smaller societies because of the practices and things that they do. Tends to be a little bit more primitive. Typically, when you get more sophisticated, larger societies, um, the shaman maybe fades out a little bit because of the practices, or kind of evolves in terms of their role within society at large. So where we tend to see shamanism in our world today. Again, it's among tribal groups of different parts of Africa, South America, North America, when we're talking about the American Indians or the native people to North America. Again, historically, you would have seen shamanism or some form of shamanism much more prevalent before you start having more developed and advanced societies and civilizations, and society becomes much more sophisticated, and you start having people do certain types of what might look like scientific investigations, or people who become academics and things like that because of the advancement of society. So the shaman tends to kind of move their way out because of some of the advancements in society. The last one we're going to talk about is what's called animism. And I believe I've spelled it wrong. Animism should be animism. I believe that is spelled wrong. So let's see here. My apologies for that. So, and I believe I've had this PowerPoint for about 4 years and nobody's ever pointed that out to me. So I apologize for that. But anyway, when we talk about animism, animism and shamanism actually could be highly related to each other, because shamanism again revolves around the shaman, whereas animism is more of a way that people view the world and view the natural world around them. And within animism, it's a belief that all the natural objects in the world have a divine, not just a divine, but a spirit. So it doesn't matter whatever the natural object is, it has some sort of spirit dwelling inside of it, so it has some spiritual qualities to it. And so what that's going to do is it's going to cause the people to perceive the natural landscape much differently, because there are spirits indwelling nature, and it's about a person's relationship with themselves and the natural world around them, and how do they interact and interrelate with those natural beings or natural elements, uh, so that they can be kind of in harmony with themselves and also with the natural environment around them. And again, you see here, how's that going to about the cultural landscape? Obviously, it's going to give people who would be considered animists to have a much greater reverence for the natural world and the way they interact with it. So you see that some, especially in Native American, American Indian religions. You could even extend this and say that this is a part of traditional Greek religion. When you look at Greek mythology and things, you look at the different spirits that inhabit the different natural objects. Whether we're talking about nymphs of certain kinds and other spirits and gods that are indwelling natural objects. So again, it harkens back to maybe a more traditional and primitive life and primitive society, with this belief in animism could very well fit into shamanism. So that's going to be all we have today for discussion on religion. When we come back next time, we're going to talk about religion and government, and the historical and contemporary relationship between the two.